Welcome again to the Present Truth 7 channel. And the passage that we want to read today is found in the book of John, chapter 14, reading from verse 15. Here are the words of Jesus to his disciples and to all of us until the end of time. Listen to these words. If ye love me, keep my commandments. I want to repeat this again. If ye love me, keep my commandments. In other words, my friends, love is manifested in action. Love is manifested, it's expressed in action. If I come to you and I say, I have great love for you, and I stop there, how will you be able to understand that I really love you? How will you be able to see love? Because love is not something that you can touch, okay, with your hands. You cannot see it with your eyes. Love is a principle, my friends. And this principle is acted out in our lives. Okay? So if someone says, I have love, the next thing that you will wait from that person is to show love. Because love is an action, my friends. Love is expressed. And that's how we understand if someone has love or does not have love. So here is a very important principle that is being laid, it's laid as a foundation by Jesus himself. And let me read it again. Jesus said, if ye love me, keep my commandments. In other words, Jesus is saying, the way to prove that you have love for me is when you keep my commandments. And if you don't keep the commandments of Jesus, you did not come to the point of loving Jesus. Though you think that you love Jesus, but it's not true, my friends. The test of love for Jesus, the test that you love Jesus, is when you keep his commandments, when you obey him. If you don't come to this point of obedience, that shows clearly that your love for Jesus is not yet developed. You don't love Jesus in reality. Okay, my friends, let me take some examples. Maybe this will help us to clearly understand. When we think of a husband and wife in the family, if the wife comes to the husband and says, okay, dear, I love you so much. And then after she says these words, the husband may come to the wife and says, okay, please, dear, can you wash my clothes? Please, can you cook this food for me? Can you help me with this other thing? And whenever the husband requests something from the wife would come and would say, no, I don't want to cook, I don't want to wash clothes, I don't want to do anything for you. And then the husband will say, okay, but you just told me that you love me. Yes, I love you, but I don't do anything for you. My friends, can this relationship work? Is this what love looks like? No, my friends. You see, love is expressed through action. And if I love someone, okay, I'm talking about a family now. If the husband loves the wife, he will do something to show that love. If the wife loves the husband, she will do something to show that love. And this is just the same in our relationship with God, my friends. God, shall I say, cannot understand that we really love him unless we obey him and keep his commandments. He cannot understand it. There is no way for God to prove our love unless he gives us something to do and he says, okay, do this. And when you do that thing, God says, okay, now I understand, now I see, this child really loves me. Why? Because he obeys me. Now, my friends, what I just said now is a foundation. It's basic to everything in this life. In other words, if God comes to you and he says in his word that you should eat this food, but you should not eat this kind of food. Why? Because this is how God said it. God knows what is best for our bodies. He created us. He made us in a certain way. So he says, okay, you can eat this kind of food, but don't touch this other kind of food. Why? Because it's unhealthy, because it does not glorify me. And when God comes with this request to us, what do we do as human beings? We make a choice. We want to obey God, or we want to obey our desires, our lusts, okay, covetousness. our appetite. But I want us to see, my friends, if we really love God, whatever God will tell us, we'll do it gladly and joyfully. Do you know why? Because love is the shall I say, the engine that prompts us to obey what God said. And my friends, if this will be understood by the Christianity at large, we will not have people coming to the pulpits today, or we will not have congregations and mega churches all over the earth where people every Sunday go there and they defend their disobedience using even the word of God. This is a blasphemy, my friends. You take the word of God and you use the word of God to speak against God and against his principle and against his commandments. Do you know that most of the people today, they say that God's commandments are no longer important? All that is important for us is grace. We don't need the law. Oh, my friends, don't you see the results in our world today where people think that law is not important and they try to act contrary to the law and chaos come out of it? Do you see the riots in the world? Why do you think there are so many people that are rebellious today? Why do you think there is this generation of young people that do not want to submit to authority? Do you know why, my friends? Because these adult people, our parents, they have infused into our minds the idea that the law is no longer binding, is not important. And this young generation grew up with this idea, okay, the law is not important. Well, God says something in the Bible, but we don't have to keep it. We are free. We are under grace. And by using these words, my friends, this heresy, because this is a heresy, we abolish the law of God. We take it aside. And then we become a people that are lawless. Okay? We don't need a law. We don't need rules. We don't need anything. We just live. Everyone lives however he thinks, however he feels like. And that's the result, my friend, why we have a society today that is full of immorality, crimes of all kinds. Because we do not want to obey the word of God. But I want to come back to this principle. If you love me, keep my commandments. Let me illustrate it in a different way. I heard of a story. A young man was working with his father at their farm. Okay, this was in the countryside. They had a big farm. And the boy, the child, was working with his father every day. Now, next to them was a neighbor. And this neighbor was a very rich person. And every day when the young man, this child, was working with his father outside, okay, you understand, working in a farm, it means to do a lot of things, okay, with the animals, with the hay, and with all this stuff. So the other person was watching the boy, and he saw that the boy is very diligent, is very earnest, is very industrious in his work. And one day the neighbor called the young man. He came just to the fence, and the neighbor started to talk to the boy. And he said, "Young man, don't you want to come over to my side? If you come here, I will give you a big room, I will give you toys to play, I will give you all that you want. Just come here and be with me and help me in my daily activities. Help me with my daily activities, and I will give you everything you want." Was this a good offer, my friends? I think it was a good offer. But I want us to listen to what the boy said. After the boy listened to the offer of the neighbor, he said, "Excuse me, I appreciate your offer, and thank you so much for what you told me, but I am not interested." And the neighbor did not expect this. The boy just told the neighbor, "I'm not interested in your offer. You can give me whatever you want. You can give me money, you can give me goods, you can give me toys, you can give me all I want, but I am not interested." And the neighbor was surprised. And the neighbor went further and said, "Okay, but why are you not interested? I can give you a better life than what your father gives you." And then the boy said something, my friends, and this is where the lesson for us is. I mean, here is a great lesson for us. Do you know what the boy said? He said, I would rather not have toys and money and advantages that you want to give me, but I'm going to stay with my father even if I'm going to be poor and live in poverty all my life. Because, the boy said, I treasure more the love of my father for me and the love that I have for him than all the other things that I could get by accepting your offer. Do you know what that means, my friends? In other words, the boy said this: I know my father loves me, but that's only the first part. The second part is that I also love my father. And because I love my father, I would never accept to go away from him. I would never accept to listen to someone else and to do something else. Because I wouldn't suffer to see the disappointment of my father. I wouldn't suffer to see the pain of my father if I would take such a step. If I would make such a choice. And then the neighbor turned around and said, okay. And the boy went back to his father. My friends, this illustration, this story is a true story actually, brings out again in clear words the message that I just read from John chapter 14, verse 15. If he loves me, keep my commandments. Do you know why it was easy for this young man to remain with his father? Because there was love between them. Not only that the father loved him, but the child loved his father. And the child could not suffer to see his father, to leave his father, and to see him suffer or be in pain because the child left for whatever advantages. In other words, love prompted this child to obey and remain with his father. And my friends, this is the same with God. If you want to remain with God, if you want to love, if you want to be able to obey God and keep his commandments, the first thing that you must do is to make sure that you love God enough in order to do what he says. And you know, my friend, this is very important. Because if you don't like to do what God tells you to do, that is a clear sign you don't have enough love for Jesus. You still love yourself more than Jesus, or you love other things more than Jesus. So the message that I want to leave with you today is this. Let's look for ways in which we can develop and improve our relationship with God to such an extent, my friends, that our love for God will be so strong that we even rather die than depart even 1 inch from his will, from his commandments. And when someone comes and says, okay, the commandments are no longer important, they are not binding, you should tell them this. If the commandments of God, the moral law, is not important, then we can also disregard the physical law. And that means that I can go up on a high building and throw myself down and nothing will happen. Because why? Well, the law is not binding anymore. Did you ever see someone throwing himself down from a building and crashing to the ground and surviving, my friends? Why not? Because the law of gravity that was established by the same God, by the same power, it's in its place. And no one can ever change the law of gravity. It's impossible. Or any other physical law in this world. They are fixed laws, my friends, by which everything around us functions in nature. And when we come to the moral law of God, which was given for the benefit of men, we say this was abolished. This is no longer important, my friends. It's the greatest lie of the devil. And my friends, you know, this Bible, the Word of God, it's full of evidences that God's law, not only that it was never changed, but it's impossible to be changed. It's not possible. It's just as simple as that. Just as much as we cannot change the law of gravity, we cannot change the moral law of God. So I pray that God will give you the spirit of honesty. And you will go back to the Word of God and you will accept His Word, not the words of man. You will accept the fact that God's law is always and has always been and it will always be in its position, in its place. And God never changed and never will change His law. Because God is not changing in the first place. God is not changing, my friends. And His law will never be changed. And those who learn to obey God and to love God enough to obey Him and keep His commandments will be the most happy people on the earth. May God bless you and help you to discover this new dimension of God's love by keeping all His commandments and obeying His commandments, because this is in reality happiness and joy. May the Lord bless us.